Welcome to the Ask Brien radio show. Good afternoon, Los Angeles! And we're here. We've been out a little while, but we're back, and we're better than ever, as usual. So here we are today on KHTS. You can download the KHTS app, and you can listen to us live. We're also live on Facebook. So you can listen, if you go to Facebook Live, you can go to KHTS, you'll be able to listen to us there. Also, we have two special guests today. We have our special radio host, Lori Schwartz of Tech Cat Girl. Are you there?
Hello, everybody.
Okay, it's good to have you back. We've had a little bit of a, I guess it's called a summer break. So exactly. And I don't know if I want to talk about personally, but I think you took a trip too this week, did you not?
Well, I'm all over the place because I cover so many trade shows, and so I was in New York for a virtual reality conference about a week ago, and it was probably the hottest week in New York to date. So besides my hair getting very large, it was pretty unpleasant.
Well, I would think that, if you got a trip for virtual reality, you don't really need to go to New York. You just put the virtual reality on your head, and you can just stay in California and be there. No?
Yeah, that's right. In the future, I will attend the conference from an air-conditioned room somewhere else. That's true.
It sounds a lot like, virtual reality sounds a lot like that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger that they remade recently. I forget that movie, in Mars, where he goes on a vacation.
Yes.
That seems very much.
Total Recall.
Total Recall. Yeah,
it was Total Recall. It was very interesting, though, because the thing about VR and AR and all that immersive tech is that what the conference was really about is when is this going to be a business reality? And so a lot of different publishers and content companies presented what they're selling in the space right now and how small businesses and brands and other companies can jump in to immersive content and actually, get some branding, marketing, and other things done. So it was interesting, besides sweating a lot.
Well, are there companies out there making money on this stuff now in virtual reality?
There is a ton of money being made on the augmented reality side because AR, which is basically this idea of taking digital assets and having them be in the real world. So you put on some glasses or you use your phone and you can actually see digital assets. AR is being used now in business and in enterprise as a training tool, as information, as supplier data. I mean, it is really becoming a major enterprise solution. And so right now, B2B in augmented reality is being monetized. I think where it's going to get really, really interesting is in MR, which is mixed reality, where you have VR and AR working together. And I think that will start showing up in business. I think the hype right now in virtual reality is in gaming and in movies, and that's where it's not quite being monetized right now. That's where people are saying, how are you going to make money?
Okay, that's the ding bell, I guess. The bell rang. Where's your bell? Excuse me, Mr. Engineer, where's your bell?
Look, man, I'm doing like 18 things at once, okay?
Well, come on. Multitask.
That was a real bell, not a virtual bell, right?
Well, you know that the theme from our show is Rocky, so we obviously have to have the bell. Because
that's right.
Obviously, Rocky needs to know when he can stop. So I'm speaking here live with our special host, Tech Cat Girl, Lori, and
Hello.
We just brought on point right now, Steve Odell. Steve, are you there?
Yes, sir. How's it going, everybody?
Well,
hello.
We're very excited to have you on board. We're going to have a great show today, and I have a couple quick questions for you. Lori, I'm sure, has tons of questions. And so my question for you is, how did you create the name? You're the owner and founder of Tenzo Tea, correct? How did you create the name Tenzo?
Right, that's a really great question. So Tenzo actually comes from a Japanese root word, and it means heavenly monk. And so the Tenzos in Japan, ancient Japan, were the people that would prepare ceremonial food and drink for monks and samurais in a Buddhist monastery.
So we're talking about something. Now you just recently got involved in this business, but from what you're saying here, it must have been around for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. Is that correct?
Yeah. So matcha was actually originated in Japan about 1,000 years ago. They first started drinking it, and then it kind of grew up in Japan, and now it's finally making its way all around the world.
Well, that's even older than I am. 1,000 years. So let me get a little bit about your background, Steve. So mind if I call you Steve?
Perfect.
So
That's his name, so that's good.
well, it could be Mr. Odell. Remember, we went to school together, right? You know,
That's right.
Mr. Mrs. Zini, or whoever our class
Oh, I
teachers
loved
were.
him. I loved him.
He was a
Yeah.
great professor. Economics, I took him. Social studies. So you started Tenzo Tea when?
1 year ago, July. So July of 2016, we opened a web store so people could start buying.
So what were you doing a year ago? Take me back. So you're just like sitting at home and watching TV, watching the NFL or something, and then all of a sudden, boom, Tenzo Tea came to your head. What happened? What was that miracle moment of your life?
Right. So I had started a few companies when I was younger. When I was 19, I started one with my cousins back in Rochester, New York. And then I was at UCLA working with some really cool entrepreneurs, building some other companies, kind of startups, figuring things out. And then I actually dropped out of school and formed a holdings company with one of my really good friends, another entrepreneur named Robbie Page. And we were athletes for a long time. We both played volleyball at UCLA. And kind of during our career there, and then Rob went on to play professionally, actually, we were drinking a lot of unhealthy energy. And so kind of as entrepreneurs, you know, you want to drink coffee and Red Bull to stay awake, alert, and really like be productive. And then as athletes, we would work out every day and drink pre-workouts. But the problem with those is you can't even read the ingredients on the back. It's all chemicals and compounds. And so you don't really know what you're putting in your body. And so we were kind of searching for an idea to start a company around. And we found matcha, and we were like, oh, my gosh, this is a really healthy product. We can supplement all the unhealthy energy that we're drinking now for matcha. And so we kind of just ran with it.
So is this an energy drink?
It's not. It's actually a powder. So instead of it comes from green tea. Instead of steeping the tea in a bag, matcha is actually ground to a powder and ingested in your drink. So you can mix it with water. You can drink it hot or cold. It goes well with milk. There's a lot of ways you can drink it.
How about with scotch?
Yeah.
Well, hey, guys, you can make a pretty mean matcha cocktail.
Isn't that the drink that the guy on Mozart in the Jungle always drinks? Have you heard about
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh, well,
Maybe
his
though.
whole thing, the character's whole thing in the show is that he has to have somebody make it for him all the time, and nobody has ever heard of it before or knows what it is, and so it's like a whole thing. But he's like a famous conductor. So he's in the know. He's international, and he's in the know.
So, Steve,
Maybe it is.
You're a co-founder, Steve?
Yes.
And when the two of you started this company, how did you start? You had to go and find a manufacturer, correct? Or were you manufacturing it yourself, or how did you find that?
Yeah, that was actually the first step. Took us a few months, but we were kind of just Google searching. We went through a lot of different platforms like Alibaba and things like that, and we really just ordered about 100 samples from about 100 different farms and manufacturers all over the world, mainly in Asia, Japan, China, Taiwan. And then we started reading about matcha, got the samples, and we noticed that the best matcha in the world was from Japan. So we kind of narrowed it down from there, and then picked an affordable one that was also really, really high quality, and went from there. But it was really just about cold outreach and kind of getting samples, making sure we had a product we liked, and then moving from there.
So explain to the audience and myself and to Lori, what is matcha?
Okay, so it is a powdered form of green tea, but it's also a little bit different in the growing process. So instead of a normal green tea plant where it grows on a farm and then it's chopped down and milled into like what you see in a bag tea, which is called loose leaf, matcha is actually shade grown. for the last 21 days, which causes the plant's immune system to go into stress. And so when it's under stress, it can't get enough sunlight. So what happens to the plant is it actually starts producing a lot more chlorophyll, which is in turn really, really healthy. And so these matcha leaves, instead of being manufactured and milled down, they're actually used 2 stone grinders. And this is I went and saw the manufacturing facility we use in Japan. It's literally 2 stones sitting on top of each other. And they grind down the youngest baby leaves into a very bright green powder. And then this powder, from the shade growing and the high chlorophyll, is super healthy. So it boosts your metabolism. It's got the highest antioxidant profile per gram of any superfood in the whole world. It also increases your rate of thermogenesis, which is your body's rate of burning calories from fat. It's really good for your brain, your heart, and also your skin. Some of our customers put it on as a face mask, actually.
And how? I know you said this earlier, but I'm trying to understand. How did you learn about matcha tea? I mean, you went online. You were looking for something for energy. You were looking for something that maybe not artificial. But how did you come across this?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's kind of it's not like there's one clear answer. Like we had this aha moment. It was more like I read a ton, and I read like probably 10 to 20 articles online a day. I read about a book a week, and so I'd started to see it pop up, and even in cafes, and I was like, oh, like what is this? And then over a period of a few months, I was like, wow, this is a really great product, and we have a really huge opportunity. But it just came from reading and talking to people, following what's going on, and kind of just staying current.
Now, did you drop out right away, or did you wait a few months until after you had launched the product?
No, I had actually dropped out before we started Tenzo Tea. I dropped out with Rob to start a holdings company called Ad Valorem. And so we wanted to, and I was working on a few other projects at the time. We owned a website development company. And so like there's really no fear in dropping out. It was kind of just like, I'm going to use this and use the time here and save some money and then reinvest that into business. And then about a month after dropping out, we started Tenzo Tea.
You're listening to KHTS 1220 on your dial, and we're here interviewing Steve Odell of Tenzo Tea. Now, is the name of your company Tenzo Tea?
Yes, sir.
And you're a founding member. So, are the 2 owners you and your partner, or does anyone else have an ownership interest?
Rob and I are the majority stakeholders. We brought on another great guy. His name is Brody Cord. He's our chief of sales, and he has a small equity stake.
Okay, so we were talking about the story about how this idea came about. Now, and Lori, by all means, if you have questions, go ahead and ask. But
yeah, I was doing my research about you, and Peter was sharing some information about you, and I understand that the company has a really strong social good culture, and that's a big part of how you're moving through all of this. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing in the social good space and why it's so important to what you're doing?
Right, yeah. Lori, that's a really great question, and it's something that's really important to Rob, myself, and our whole team. So kind of the reason, just going back a little bit, why I dropped out was because I wanted to really build something for the world that would be really valuable and would help a lot of people. And so I think that, like, everyone who's drinking these unhealthy energies is really disservicing themselves and their bodies. And so in a small way, we're helping people on a day-to-day basis live a healthier life by drinking our matcha. But also, when we finished our first year, like 2 weeks ago, we decided to donate a percentage back of our sales to a local Long Beach homeless shelter. And so we're kind of we want to continue that, giving back and really being a big part of the community. And so social good is extremely important to us as a team, and kind of the product and how we act on a day-to-day basis. And then our goal is to just continually donate a percentage of sales back annually to the community.
Now, you said you selected Japan, and you thought that was the best place to get the matcha tea. My question is, why Japan? Why not China? Why not South Korea? What was it about China? Why was it Japan? What made you select Japan as the best?
Yeah, That's a great question too. So, if you look at China, first of all, they have, like, just based on their whole economy, it's a really massive economy, a really massive manufacturing society. They have some of the biggest farms in the world, and green tea farms specifically. But there is a problem with China because they have a lot of metalloids in the soil. And so even if you get a farmer to send you some product, and then they send you a certificate saying, oh, there's no metalloids, you still have a risk of kind of going against the USDA or the FDA or something like that. And so we didn't want to take that chance. And then we also noticed that the quality of the matcha powder was a lot better from Japanese farms. And so they might not be as big as the Chinese farms, and it might cost a little bit more, but the product's a much higher quality. And you can tell that in the green, really the color of the product. And so the Chinese farms are a little dull. They kind of look like a green cardboard paper that's been sitting out in the sun for a while. And the Japanese matcha is a very bright and vibrant green. And so if you look at Japan's climate, it's actually ideal for growing matcha because it fluctuates around 92% humidity, which is the exact growing humidity that you need to grow a great product.
So you could have done that, Lori, in New York when you were there, because the humidity was pretty high there, right?
Yeah, I definitely think with the humidity we could have. Maybe we should open up, an adjunct office for you.
Let's do it, Lori. Maybe we can open up a farm in New York.
In Rochester.
Yeah, Rochester, that'd be great.
I wanted to, Peter, segue back to the social good question, because I think this is kind of interesting because because of your generation being so focused on social good that large companies are sort of changing their philosophy and their policies around it because they want to get kids, millennials and the next generation into the company and be competitive, that social good now is not a slap on, but it's actually part of the culture. Was that sort of in college and before, was that sort of something that, reverberated with you as you thought about what am I going to do with my business, that had to be part of the story? Because it's so different from, say, Peter and I's generation where, you wrote a check at the end of the year to charity. It wasn't called social good. It was charity, and it was this side thing you did. Whereas what you're talking about is it's really weaved into your business. It's like a core philosophy of what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally true. Our generation is it's kind of obsessive. Like, we really just believe in giving back. And I'm not really sure what that stems from, but you can see it in a bunch of different companies. Like, if you look at Tom's, they buy a pair of shoes, donate it to Africa, and kind of that model of, we'll sell you one product here, and then if you do that, you're also going to help someone in need. A buddy of mine started a water company that is helping out with helping to solve the water problem in impoverished countries. So anytime you buy a water from them, they also give a gallon of water to a place that doesn't have it. But I think that, Lori, let me ask you guys, do you guys have any insight about why or what could influence our generation?
Well, it's from a data perspective, a lot of it is in response to Gen X and Boomers, and that was never part of our culture. If you look at millennials overall and why there's been so much marketing buzz about millennials is that their whole approach to things is completely different, and it is in reaction to the generations before. So a lot of it is because we weren't oriented that way. We weren't about taking care of our world in the same way, and so a lot of your approach to things is in reaction to the world that we kind of are handing over to you. That's sort of the base way to look at it, if that makes
Very
sense.
Cool.
But like when you came up, all your friends, don't you talk about companies that are doing things that are different?
Yeah, no, totally. I was just meeting, and I met with an entrepreneur yesterday who owns a kombucha company in New Zealand, and their whole thing is they don't even sell bottled kombucha. They sell bottles, and then they have select stores all over New Zealand that you can go to and fill up your bottle. and you subscribe to the program, but there's never any waste because you're not going through all these bottles. You're not recycling them all the time. You're literally just going and getting the kombucha and then refilling your bottle over and over and over and over again. And so what I'm seeing is like all these models where we're trying to minimize waste or help communities that need it. It's really special, and I think it's going to be a really big impact on the world.
I want you to save that point because we have to go to a commercial break. But we're here at KHTS listening to Steve Odell of Tenzo Tea and my special guest, Lori Schwartz of Tech Cat Girl. And this is the Ask Brien Show. We'll be back in a second.
Doing right starts right here. At Union Bank, community banking is at the heart of what we do. From giving customers more convenient access to their money to financing their homes here in the neighborhood. Union Bank believes in acting locally. We also believe that investing in local businesses helps everyone. For over 150 years, Union Bank has grown strong one community at a time. We live here, we do business here, and we're here for you. Stop by your local branch today to experience the strength of community banking. There are 3 Union Bank branches conveniently located in the Santa Clarita and Antelope Valley area. To find your nearest branch, visit unionbank.com. Loan subject to credit and collateral approval. Financing available for collateral located in California, Oregon, and Washington. Fees and restrictions may apply. Terms and conditions subject to change. MUFG Union Bank N.A. member FDIC equal housing lender. Union Bank is a registered trademark and brand name of MUFG Union Bank N.A.
Drugs or alcohol abuse can tear a family apart. In Santa Clarita, just like everywhere else, it's an epidemic. The Way Out Recovery is here to help. Call them now at 296-4444 or visit them on the web at thewayoutrecoveryscv.com. The Way Out offers outpatient treatment for adolescents, adults, and family members. The Way Out is compassionate, caring, professional, and confidential. You and your family don't have to suffer any longer. Call the Way Out Recovery now, 296-4444, or visit thewayoutrecoveryscv.com and make an appointment. Asking for help is the first step.
Genghis Khan Mongolian Barbecue and Chinese Buffet. Healthy vegetables and lean meats. A low-carb treat. Create your own bowls with our delicious meats and always fresh vegetables. Then, blend in your own secret sauce. Feast at the all-you-can-eat buffet and barbecue for the same low price. A local favorite for over 25 years, Genghis Khan is still located on Lyons Avenue just east of the I-5. Enter between the Chevron and Shell gas stations. Come and see us soon at Genghis Khan.
City of Hope is a leader in cancer research and treatment, and there's a City of Hope location right here in Santa Clarita, eliminating a major barrier in the fight against cancer: distance to quality care. Santa Clarita has the advantages of City of Hope's renowned clinical expertise, compassionate care, and access to clinical trials. Find out more at cityofhope.org/Santa Clarita or call 661-799-1999.
At the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, safaris depart daily, not only once a month and under a blue moon, not only as the West African crowned crane flies, every day, daily. So the next time the daily grind has you feeling trapped, ask yourself this: why settle for traffic that moves at a crawl when you can feel the rush of a cheetah racing at 70 miles an hour? Why feed the office lunch dealer with your clearly marked leftovers when you can feed a magnificent giraffe? Why listen to your cube mate's daily indigestion when you can listen to the call of the wild? It's time to soar through the sky and trek through the treetops. It's time to wake up and smell the savannah. It's time to stop asking all of these rhetorical questions. It's time to go on safari.
Embark on an epic adventure today at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, where safaris depart daily. Learn more at sandiegozooSafariPark.org. Summer Safari is presented by your San Diego County Toyota dealers. KHTS.
And welcome back. We're live. We have Steve Odell of Tenzo Tea. We have Lori Schwartz of Tech Cat, our special guest. and we're here today talking to Steve. We have a couple questions for you. We were last left off with Lori's question about the social consciousness of millennials, which is a very interesting topic for a business show. And did you have any more response that you wanted to give, Steve, or did you want to move on from that?
No, my last point about that is that I hope that, like a lot of things in life in the world are very cyclical, meaning they kind of go on this wavelength of like high and low. And so I really hope that the next generation and my current generation will really keep this theme of social good up and not really let it slip. So I'm calling out all the Generation Z people out there listening to make sure that their starting companies are promoting the social good.
And I do want to point out something about generational. If you look at it, Warren Buffett is from a generation. He's in his mid 80s, and we have Bill Gates who's young 60s, and they are both giving billions of dollars away at the end of their it may be the end of their situation, but they are giving away billions of dollars. So charity has always been there. Even the robber barons, Andrew Carnegie, hundreds of years ago gave away. I mean, Carnegie Hall was built based on philanthropy. So philanthropy has always been there, but I don't think it's been engraved within the company culture and engraved with percentages of going to the common good. That's where I think there's a distinction as opposed to just the owner of the company giving it out. Now it's more like engraved in like, okay, the company's going to give 5 cents or 10 cents of every dollar for a social good. That's where I think the distinction is. That's how I see it, but everybody sees things differently. So let's go back into this Tenzo tea. Is this an organic product?
Yeah, we offer organic and non-organic matcha, actually. It's really, really healthy, and it's really good. And organic is a really big thing right now, so we're like actually firm believers in that. I just had an all-organic smoothie for lunch. But yeah.
So when you say you have two versions, you're having one version that's organic, one that's non-organic. So what is in the non-organic? You have pesticides. And why would you do that is the other question. So it's a two-part question.
Sorry. Yeah. They're grown the same way. They're like pretty much the exact same product. We just can't actually call one of them USDA organic. So it's just kind of like a little legal thing. But according to Japan, it actually is JAS.
So you're not adding anything like sulfites or anything to that. It's just the fact that you can't get the certification.
Yeah, we don't have it yet. We're in the process of that, though.
And the organic version, that is certified?
Yes.
Now, so you started this company. How did you locate a manufacturer? I mean, not a manufacturer. How did you create some? Did you create a distribution agreement with somebody? How did you start selling the product?
Right. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. I actually love this story. So we were in Long Beach, and we had started the company, and there was a coffee shop about 200 yards down the road. And so we went to the coffee shop, and we were like, guys, we have this great product. It's matcha. It's going to change the world. Like, you should sell it. And they're like, no. And so we went back the next day, and we did the same thing, and they're like, no. And we went there every single day for about 6 months. My partner Robbie and I, literally at 5:30 a.m. every single morning when they opened, we were the first people in the door for 6 months. And eventually, the owner, she owns 3 coffee shops. She kind of said yes and took a shot at us, and we got our first wholesale account, which is only one of her locations. She didn't put us in all 3 right away. And then so that was in about September, November time period of 2016. And she put us in one location, and we were there for about 2 months. And from there, we proved that we could sell. We were tracking like how many people were buying per day, how many cups we're selling per week, and then per month. And so the first 2 months, every single weekend we went in the shop, we gave away free samples, we were talking to the community and really trying to build that like kind of local vibe. And that went really well. And around January, she put us in her second location. And then from there, like early January, we had those 2 locations. And then we had 10 by the end of January, and then it kind of just like spiraled out of control, and now we have over 60 in Los Angeles. But kind of that first one took so long, took so much effort, a lot of grit, and a lot of no's.
Well, the biggest lesson you can ever learn is persistence, 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 and you just established that right then and there. 6 months in a row going to that store, and eventually they said, you know what, we don't want the guy coming back for another 2 years. We better just take the
Yeah. But hey, you know what happened was we actually the third location we got in is actually the highest volume coffee shop in all of Long Beach. So they make like literally thousands of cups per day. And as soon as we got in there, we put in a big Tenzo sign, like now serving Tenzo tea. Here are the benefits of matcha. Right at the checkout counter, they actually had to triple their almond milk sales, like their almond milk purchases, because we were selling so many matcha lattes that they would run out of almond milk so frequently. So it's kind of this awesome experience, and now we're really good friends with the ownership, and she's kind of one of our mentors, So we went there every day, and we kind of made a good chunk of change.
So it has to come with almond milk? You can't use regular milk, or is that just how most people drink it?
Most people like it with almond milk. It really pairs well with kind of a smooth and a little bit sweet flavor. But you can use it with regular milk, water, really a lot of different mixtures.
This is KHTS 1220 on your AM dial. We're here with Steve Odell and Lori Schwartz, Tech Cat Girl. And during the break, we Tenzo Tea just announced that anyone that types in Ask Brien, ASKBRIN, that's our show, will be able to get a 20% discount. Is that correct? Steve?
Yeah, 20% off.
And how long is that going to be for?
You guys, it'll be free for everybody for the next week. So we have 7 days, and then if you guys need it anytime after that, feel free to give me a contact.
Well, that's great. Lori, did you had a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I think because I think the organic piece, along with the social good piece, is again a big trend with your generation. So now that you're deep inside of your new business, and you are relatively young and you're doing great. What is the biggest surprise as a new business, as a small business owner that you're experiencing? As someone who really has just launched sort of the future of their focus.
Right. Well, Lori, I'm sure you guys know this, being kind of veteran business people, but there's a lot of surprises. And so I think the hardest part for us has been earning people's respect. I'm only 23. I dropped out of school last year, and so there's this battle against ageism, and especially with manufacturers, and even in the U.S., it's really, really hard to earn their respect and say, oh yeah, how are you guys going to afford to buy $50,000 worth of bags or boxes, or buy 100,000 boxes? And it's we can show them and tell them, and we'll outreach them, and everyone will kind of just shrug us off or not really take it seriously. And so it's kind of just been a battle to earn respect. And that's kind of coming around, but that was really hard in the beginning.
And is it, are they asking you for things that normally you wouldn't ask someone who is coming to you for business? I know a lot of my female startup friends who have similar issues, but not because of age, because of gender, who have to dance around some issues just to be taken seriously by investors. Coupled with some things like when one was pregnant, she didn't disclose that because she knew that would stop the company from being funded. So are there little tricks and things that you're doing to, communicate your, the health of your idea and your business that goes beyond age?
Yeah, well, there are a few of them. First of all, I really like that trick that the woman did, and I kind of pulled something similar. It's I never tell anyone I dropped out of school unless it comes up in conversation or it's a conversation like this. Because it's just kind of shown as some people are oh man, this guy's kind of flaky, or he's not really trustworthy. I don't know how we're going to deal with his company. What if his company's the same way? And so I don't usually tell a lot of our partners that, and I don't ever tell anyone I'm 23. And it's always funny, when you actually go, and because I always like to see the factories and places that we deal with. And so when we flew to Japan, the farmers were like, "Who are you guys? Like, how are you doing this? Like, what do you mean you're buying thousands and thousands of dollars worth of matcha from us, but you're just like 23-year-old guys? What do you even know about business?" And so that was kind of weird. But like, you get around it quick once you dial into the numbers. And so I really just try to let the business speak for me, and then that kind of solves the problem.
Well, you know, two very famous people that dropped out were Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. I think they did okay, so I don't think that should be the big decision.
It's a good way to move through your life, it seems. Now, how do your parents feel about all of this? And again, you're a business person and you're running your own company, so it's not like it matters. But usually when you're 23 and you drop out, your parents who had maybe different vision for you of having a more typical education, how did they handle it?
Well, I think you can probably imagine what the initial conversation was like. It wasn't too pretty. I actually dropped out of school when I was still at UCLA, and then flew home for like a kind of a spring break between quarters. And then I told them at home face to face, and they didn't even know I dropped out until I flew home. And I was like,
wow.
Yeah, so my mom obviously was a little, she was pretty upset. She cried and the whole ordeal, but my dad was kind of like, "What the hell are you doing?" But really they were okay. And after a few weeks and after they saw what I was doing, they started to believe, and they've been tremendously supportive since then. So I think they changed their minds pretty quickly. But
because you were focused, you had did you have a business plan that you showed them?
I actually didn't show them a business plan, but they knew that I had had some success in the past with business, and they kind of just trusted me, I guess. And I was very focused. Like I'm not like the guy who's going out and partying all weekend. I'm the guy who's on Friday night is like reading books and sending emails scheduled for Monday morning.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like it's really just like how you're gonna live your life, and so I chose to do things that probably normal 23-year-olds don't really do, and 22-year-olds and college kids don't do, and so they respected that, and they respect the uniqueness and the focus and the determination.
This is
But it was
KHTS.
hard.
I'm sorry, this is KHTS, and we're here with Steve Odell and Lori Schwartz, and we're talking about Tenzo T. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but there are certain guidelines around here that we have to go along with. So that is very, very interesting. Let me ask you a question that has not been brought up, and that is, how did he get the money to start this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like I said, we had some money. I had made a decent chunk of change early on when I was about 19 and 20 with my cousins, and then a little bit more through college. Like I had started one quick idea that any college kid can do is, if you know a guy who owns a truck, everybody moves back to school at the same time period, and so they're all moving. And you can get a few of your buddies to use a few trucks, you can easily get jobs just moving furniture for $20 to $30 an hour. And you can, like, seriously, you can make thousands of dollars in a period of a week, right when everybody moves in. And so I would do things like that, or just like sell various things. And so I had kind of had some money, and then my partner Rob also had done a similar thing. So he had some money, and so it was really just self-funded and bootstrapped from the very beginning.
Now, one thing that I see interesting here is it looks like Robbie and you both are from Rochester. So did you guys know each other before you came here? Or?
Yeah, good observation. Rob and I. So Rob's a professional volleyball player, which is very unique. He's 7'1". He's an awesome guy, and
7'1". Wow.
Yeah, and so Robbie, his parents were playing in a rec volleyball league in Rochester, and my brother was actually reffing the game, and Rob came as a substitute for one of his parents' friends who was missing, and my brother went up to Rob and was like, "Hey, like you're like a 6'5", 14-year-old. You should go play volleyball with my little brother." And so Rob's parents were like, "Oh, maybe this does make sense." And so I actually met Rob the next week at a volleyball camp, when I was 12 and Rob was 14, and we kind of knew each other all throughout high school. Then I actually followed Rob to UCLA, and we played there for a few years, and now we're leading the operations together.
Well, and it looks like Dan, too, is from Rochester.
Yeah, Dan's also from Rochester. I met Dan when I was 10 years old as well, actually, a little before Robbie. But, yeah, so we all have that kind of strange Rochester connection. And then Brody Cord, our chief sales officer, he actually went to school in Rochester for college and met some of our really good friends. And then when he was done with that, he was selling construction equipment in Southern California, and he sold a few $1 million worth in his first year. And then he was kind of attracted to the same thing about our company that Lori mentioned, the social good. And so he messaged me on LinkedIn and was like, hey, I really like what you're doing. I love the mission to make the world a healthier place. Can I get involved? And so obviously he's very skilled, and so we kind of brought him on. Yeah.
Well, I think that may be part of the reason of your success. It's hard to find business partners that you can get along with, that you have a lot of commonality with. It's a hard thing. And when you add into the fact that you're from the same neighborhood, same area, and you knew each other for 10 years, even though you're young, you've been together technically for 10 years, and the fact that you knew each other, you knew what type of temperaments you had, you knew the type of people they are, you know the values, you come from the same area, and I think that adds to the fact of your success. It's not the only reason for your success, but I think it adds to it, and it makes it easier to have that partnership and get around those issues, because many people, they start in business with a partner they didn't know, they have nothing, they may have different views, everything be different, and it's a lot harder to start. So I think that, that your background does help.
No, I totally agree. Actually, founder disputes are the number one reason that startups die. So we're lucky to have kind of avoided that big pitfall early on.
All right, and I hate to do this to us, but we do have to wrap it up. And you've been listening to the Ask Brien Show. Steve, you've been a great guest. We'll have you on again. We'd like to find out some more information. Thank you very much.
We have one more
No
segment.
problem, guys.
You know this, right?
What?
We do have one more segment.
That's correct. We're going to be talking about Ask Brien.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Steve, for being on the show, and we'll be speaking to you shortly.
You're awesome, guys. Make sure we have that 20% off code. It's just Ask Brien on our website.
I'm hitting it
anyone
hard.
will use it. Yeah, Lori, you got it. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate
Have a great day.
Okay.
Bye.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top-quality musicals and plays. Located in Old Town Newhall, the CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go to canyontheater.org.
Canyon Country now has a one-stop printing shop.
Feathers, photo signs and printing.
Feathers, signs, banners, business cards, embroidery, photo restoration, picture framing, car wraps, all under one roof.
Transfer your old videos, slides, and 8mm movies to DVD.
Print custom t-shirts and jackets with your team or business logo.
Create a banner for your school.
It's all possible at Feathers.
Feathers, you've driven by them daily on Soledad across the street from the Edwards Theaters next to the coffee kiosk.
Discover Feathers, Canyon Country's one-stop printing shop.
Presto Pasta would like to deliver a free catered lunch to you and your coworkers. Tell us in 100 words or less why your workplace deserves a free catered lunch from Presto Pasta. Email your entry to pastapatrol@prestopasta.com. That's pastapatrol@prestopasta.com. We'll pick a weekly winner. Presto Pasta in the River Oaks Shopping Center, Valencia. For catering, Presto Pasta means business. Maximum 15 employees and 15 miles from Presto Pasta, Valencia.
City of Hope is a leader in cancer research and treatment, and there's a City of Hope location right here in Santa Clarita, eliminating a major barrier in the fight against cancer: distance to quality care. Santa Clarita has the advantages of City of Hope's renowned clinical expertise, compassionate care, and access to clinical trials. Find out more at cityofhope.org/Santa Clarita or call 661-799-1999.
Your hometown station, KHTS.
Well, we're back on the Ask Brien radio show, KHTS, and we had a great guest. That was Steve Riddell at Tenzo T. Lori. That was very interesting. It was, one of the first times that I recall that we really had that discussion about millennials and corporate responsibility, that we really haven't had that type of discussion on the show. So that was very interesting, very unique perspective that you brought. So I was very glad for the questions that you did ask.
Yeah, it's he's so young and so successful that I am going to have to eat chocolate after the show ends.
And don't forget to get your 20% discount using the word Ask Brien on Tenzo T, T-E-N-Z-O-T,
That's right.
and then Ask Brien is A-S-K-B-R-I-E-N, the only way you can spell Brien. This Y-A-N and I-A-N, I never heard of it until I came here, but everyone knows that Brien is B-R-I-E-N, so I'm a little confused about that concept. So we've been off the air for a couple weeks where we've had to have reruns because we were in Hong Kong at the RISE conference. And as everybody knows, Ask Brien now we have video courses where people can take classes on how to learn advanced SEO techniques. We have courses on marketing, on how to network with business cards, all these courses that we have on Ask Brien. We've also added on videos of everything, how to set up your accounting records, all the way to pick a domain name and pick a web host. We have all those along with the questions and answers. We are becoming the business resource for business owners. And when a business owner has a problem, they go to Ask Brien and they can get the information. So it's a great resource, and we've been spreading the word everywhere. And we just came back from we had 2 recent trips. We went to Hong Kong and China at the RISE conference. The RISE conference is part of Web Summit, which is a summit put on by a group of people from Ireland that goes worldwide. They had over 15,000 people at the conference, so we were able to show our ware and show people about the Ask Brien concept, so that was great. We got back, and I think 2 days later we went up to San Francisco next door to the Twitter headquarters. So, we've been active around and about while you were in New York and going around on the conventions that you were on. We're out there too. We're out there spreading the word because we want to tell everyone that there is a free site to go to get any information you need about your business. Laura, you're telling me you have some events coming up. What do you got planned?
Yeah, so for my consulting company, StoryTech, a lot of what we do is help brands and tech companies and media companies navigate this crazy disruptive industry right now where everything is changing all the time, and technology is really disrupting our understanding of how things work. So not only do we need to understand the business side that Ask Brien is helping us with, but we also need to understand some of these technology changes and consumer behavior changes as we try to market our businesses. So I'm always attending different shows and curating panels and doing briefings and helping people connect there. So some of the upcoming shows that I think people should check out and think about, one is called IBC, which is in Amsterdam mid-September. And IBC is well known in Europe. It's one of the biggest conferences all year that showcases new technologies and new solutions across media, technology, entertainment. And another one coming up that I'm starting to work on is one of the biggest shows in the U.S. called the Consumer Electronics Show. And that's actually in January of 2018, but believe it or not, I start working on it now. And tickets are going to go on sale for that, passes in September. So those 2 shows are pretty important shows for any business, I think, who's trying to figure out what's the new technology solutions, what are the new companies, what are the new trends, and what should I be thinking about as I move through all of this.
Now, IBC, is that hardware-based?
It's everything. It's consumer electronics, so there is hardware, there's software companies, and like the other event I was telling you about at the beginning of the show, there's going to be virtual reality companies, augmented reality companies, gaming companies. Pretty much any sort of technology sector will be represented there. And it's for business people to understand what are the upcoming solutions, what's out there, what's happening, and how should they position themselves with all these solutions in the near future.
Now, are there startups and investors there as well, or is it just basically just...
Yeah. All of these shows these days are smart enough to create startup pavilions where startups can either through a variety of other partners like Indiegogo and TechCrunch and Techstarter, who have a contest to see who can win a booth space at these events. Startups usually have an area on these show floors where they're demonstrating their solutions, because a lot of the bigger companies are actually shopping for startups because they don't want to be disrupted. And startups are always bringing new ideas and new concepts and new models, just like our last speaker, who, is combining a lot of different trends to build his business. So startups are a really big part of our technology culture right now, and they're driving change even inside of big companies.
And what is your role at those two events?
So I'm a professional curator and matchmaker. So what I do at those events is I give VIP show floor tours. So I'm actually walking around executives, explaining to them what they're seeing and why it's important and relevant to their business. So it's a lot of storytelling around the relevancy of the technology that they're seeing, because it's very overwhelming. If you're not doing this day to day and you go up to a booth and it's all this whiz-bang stuff, you have no idea how it's going to be relevant to you. So what my company does is translate all of that. So we give these show floor tours. People put on headsets. It's just like a goofy tour you would do as a tourist, only we're not on a bus, and we're talking about the trends and how it's relevant for business owners to be thinking about these things. And as an example of a trend, it would be, what should you, small business, do about virtual reality or augmented reality? Here are some companies doing interesting things. This is why it's important to you, that kind of thing.
And what do you think is the biggest, newest trend that you've seen in the last year? Would it be VR?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's definitely what I would call immersive experiences, which is VR and AR and the combination of the two. But I also think it's a little bit mixed in with artificial intelligence, AI, and then also the
Anyway,
Internet
Lori,
of
I hate
Things.
to interrupt, but we the show is over. We're kind of at the end of the thing, but we'll get
No
back to that
worries.
next week.
We can always talk about that stuff.
Style and safety of a new Nissan from Valencia Nissan.
Bob Bailey, Executive Manager at Valencia Nissan, where Bob or any of his helpful, friendly staff can assist you with incredible savings on summer specials on the 2017 Nissan Versa,